Burkina Faso was on its knees, battered by years of violence and broken promises. Villages emptied, schools closed, and hope faded as leaders failed to protect the people. Corruption and despair spread deeper than the armed groups in the bush. The nation longed for a protector, a voice to answer their cry. In this darkness, a young captain emerged, Ibrahim Traoré, not a politician, but a soldier who had seen the suffering firsthand. Traoré felt the betrayal and exhaustion of his people and fellow soldiers. The government in the capital seemed distant, out of touch with the country's pain. Traoré became a symbol of resilience, a son of the nation refusing to watch it die. His rise was not about speeches, but about action and resolve forged on the front lines. The people saw in him a new generation, ready to break from the failures of the past. His arrival was more than political, it was a moment of hope reclaimed. Crowds filled Ouagadougou, chanting his name, reclaiming their agency. Traoré spoke the language of dignity and survival. He embodied their hope, a warrior who stood when others knelt. In West Africa, a new story was beginning, a captain answering his nation's cry. The people believed their spirit was not yet broken. Ibrahim Traoré was born in 1988, in a Burkina Faso still echoing with Sankara's revolutionary spirit. He grew up in a close-knit community, shaped by shared joys and burdens. A quiet, observant student at the University of Ouagadougou, he studied geology. He could have chosen a life of comfort, but the nation's pain called him elsewhere. The insurgency was tearing the country apart, and Traoré felt compelled to act. In 2010 he joined the army, not for career but for commitment. He chose the barracks over the classroom, believing defense of the homeland was urgent. Traoré served in the north, at the heart of the crisis, as part of the elite Cobra unit. He fought and lived alongside his men, sharing their hardships and fears. This experience gave him a deep understanding of the war's reality. He saw the disconnect between political elites and soldiers dying in the bush. Frustration grew within him, a silent anger that would one day drive him to act. Traoré was shaped by conflict, forged into a leader by the nation's peril. His journey from student to officer mirrored Burkina Faso's awakening. He became the product of a war that demanded a new kind of leader. By September 2022, Burkina Faso was on the brink. The government, born of a coup, had failed to deliver security. Violence only worsened. Extremist groups controlled vast regions, and a deadly ambush on a convoy to Debout became the final straw. Traoré and fellow junior officers, witnessing the carnage, saw leadership incapable of saving the nation. The decision to act was a response to the people's desperation and battlefield reality. On September 30th, gunfire echoed in Ouagadougou, not from insurgents but from the military seizing control. Traoré, just 34, emerged as the reluctant leader. He addressed the nation. Burkina Faso was in mortal danger and the old leadership had failed. He insisted this was not for personal power but for national survival. The people celebrated, seeing Traoré as a patriot, not a strongman. Russian flags waved alongside Burkinabe ones, signaling a break from old colonial ties. This was more than a coup, it was a popular revolution led by a soldier. Burkina Faso had chosen to stand, not collapse. Traoré's leadership broke with tradition. No palace, no luxury, just a captain at war. He wore fatigues, lived simply, and stayed close to his troops. He visited camps unannounced, sharing meals and listening to soldiers' concerns. This solidarity boosted morale and trust. Traoré spoke plainly to the nation, calling for collective effort. He expanded the volunteers for the defense of the homeland, arming citizens to defend themselves. Massive rallies showed overwhelming support. People saw him as the heir to Sankara. His grassroots approach extended to civilians, urging shared responsibility. Popular backing became his shield against rivals and outside pressure. Traoré was legitimized not by decree, but by the will of the people. To many, he was the people's captain. Traoré knew political freedom meant little without economic independence. He launched bold reforms to reclaim Burkina Faso's destiny. The first step: feed the nation. He called for an agricultural offensive, mobilizing citizens to farm every plot. He nationalized gold reserves and built the country's first state-owned refinery, keeping wealth at home. Faso Kosam, the first state-owned dairy factory, was launched to reduce imports and create jobs. Traoré promoted local culture, mandating Faso Danfani fabric for official attire, a symbol of pride and decolonization. he waged war on corruption, declaring zero tolerance for graft. By nationalizing assets and promoting local production, he laid the foundation for a sovereign economy. His fight was not just with guns but for the economic soul of the nation. Traore aimed to build a future where Burkina Faso stood on its own feet. These reforms were about dignity, sovereignty, and self-reliance. The nation was being rebuilt from the ground up. Traore's vision reached beyond Burkina Faso. He saw a continent-wide struggle for true independence. Inspired by Sankara, he championed Pan-African unity and anti-imperialism. He challenged neo-colonial ties, arguing that foreign powers used the war on terror as a pretext to exploit Africa. One of his first acts demanding French troops withdraw, ending a long colonial legacy. This bold move inspired others across Africa, signaling a new era of sovereignty. Traore forged the alliance of Sahel states with Mali and Niger, a mutual defense pact for regional self-reliance. The alliance marked a radical shift, African solutions for African problems. Western criticism followed, but Traore stood firm, accusing imperialist forces of fueling instability. He renamed a major boulevard after Sankara, erasing colonial symbols. Through words and actions, Traore championed a renaissance of Pan-African pride. He was not just leading Burkina Faso but inspiring a continent. A new path was being forged, one of unity and independence. Traore's path is fraught with hardship. The war rages on and much of the country remains contested. Extremist attacks have intensified, causing tragic losses among soldiers and civilians. Nearly 3 million people have been displaced, living in desperate conditions. The government's counterinsurgency has drawn criticism for alleged abuses, risking cycles of revenge. Political repression has increased, with dissent silenced and critics conscripted or arrested. Coup plots and internal fractures reveal the regime's fragility. Traore fights on multiple fronts against insurgents, poverty, and dissent within power. The challenges are immense and the outcome uncertain. Yet for millions, Traore remains a symbol of hope and courage. He has reminded his people they can be authors of their own history. His legacy will be measured by the audacity of his vision, not the ease of his path. The war is unfinished, but the fire of hope burns on. In the heart of Burkina Faso, the people's captain fights for a future worth believing in.